Hello, we're going to paint a version of Mr. Blue Jay. I did this guy in our gallery glass class, so if you guys are looking for something a little different to do, lots of fun, definitely this is one of the many assignments that I gave you in that course. It's in the Advancing Project Library if you guys are really interested in. Maybe you have the gallery glass product already, having some problems with it. Definitely, I went through all the troubleshooting and manipulated the product extremes, all kinds of different ways. You guys can see more information on my site about it if you're interested. But definitely, I was inspired to keep painting and playing with Mr. Blue Jay in a one-stroke way. So we're going to do some fun and easy flowers and some leaves and some branches. And I figured we would just play around on a 12 by 12 wrap canvas here today, and you can paint this guy on a 12 by 16 or whatever one. Doesn't have to be wrapped one. It could be one of the canvas boards, or if you want to play around on just some canvas paper, those are, that's always great to do too, especially the first time if you want to play around and practice. And then once you understand how to lay them out and get them all painted up, then definitely you'll feel more confident to put them on a t-shirt, put them on a piece of wood, put them on whatever you like, right? So definitely I have lots and lots of different classes now available for you guys on different surfaces. Might be a little bit different, that I would do things a little bit differently, but our canvas is pretty standard, and you'll learn a lot of great techniques. And then definitely, depending on the surface, you decide to go ahead and do it. You may do some things a little bit differently. I had a little bit of a wacky idea there that I've played around with a couple times in some backgrounds that I've done before. I thought this would be a fun and easy way to get some color down, play around with, a little bit of a modeling kind of look. Sometimes you get these extra little spacers in here, and if you have never seen them before or always like, what is this? I never used them, definitely, but it does say that you can put them in to stretch your canvas a little bit more. It's pretty taut. I'm pretty happy with it. Definitely, I'm not gonna worry about those guys. They usually end up thrown in the garbage, or can use them for something, I'm sure. Wedge underneath a crooked table, I don't know. But anyhow, this is definitely, we're going to play around with these wrap canvases. Some of the higher quality ones definitely come with them. Some of the cheaper ones don't. And definitely you'll notice the difference in the canvas if you guys haven't seen before me talking about canvases. Sometimes it's good to go and give them a little bit of a sanding to make sure that if there's any rough gesso that was done by the manufacturer, sometimes they leave some bumps and lumps in the canvas. And but whenever they're new, definitely it helps to give it a little bit more smoother surface. If you feel like you want it really smooth, then definitely go ahead and put a couple more coats of gesso, sanding it in between before you start your background. But definitely sometimes it's nice to have that little bit of a weave of canvas there. And I only really do that if I'm doing lots of really small details. Alright, so definitely keep the cellophane, because I have a fun idea for you for a fun and easy background. And I thought I would use dioxazine purple and some cobalt blue, which is going to be some of the same color that we use in our Blue Jay, but I want to do it in a softer, muted tone for our background. It kind of looking a little bit like a sky, I guess, in a way, with some blue tones. And we're going to use our Donna Dewberry sponges. And it's definitely time for me to open up a new pack. I use them and abuse them pretty good. And for now, I still have those yucky ones. If I'm working on wood or something that I know I'm going to wreck completely, definitely I'll keep those old ones around. They're good for doing all kinds of crazy techniques. But definitely I wanted to open up some new ones. And you can use either or, right? The only difference is that they got this little bit more of a point shape on the smaller one, and a little bit more flat on this side. And depending on how big of clouds you want, definitely I love the fact that we have a nice round that's nice and flat here, right? Got a nice edge to it that you can play around with. So, but we're definitely going to make things a little bit easy for you today. I want to play around with a little bit of a model look. And I want you guys to soak the sponge right in, especially it's brand new here. And I'm going to work it in a little bit there, make sure that the water is good and absorbed in there. And then squeeze it out, and then tap it on a towel a few times, dry your hands too. And make sure that it's not too wet, but just definitely damp so that it'll accept the paint a little bit nicer. Okay, so also what you're going to need for this project here too is a spray bottle. Okay, so along with this cellophane that you kept from your canvas, if you don't have that with your canvas for some reason, definitely you can always use some saran wrap out of your kitchen. And we're going to also add some floating medium in here. Okay. So the first color, what I want to do is concentrate on these cobalt a little bit. So I am going in, picking up just that little bit of medium on my sponge, right? Because I want it to be like a little bit of a water look, right? Watercolor look. So just pulled a little tiny bit of color off the edge of that bubble here a little bit, and working in some of that medium on my plate. So I don't want to see like liquidy, watery color. I still want to see some translucent, but good strong color of cobalt in there. And you probably put even too much on my plate for paint, right? But depending on how fast you guys get into doing some of your Blue Jay after, you can blow dry this to make it a little bit quicker after. But definitely, if you have the chance to let it dry on its own, it won't take too long to dry. Okay, so I'm definitely getting a lot of coverage here, guys. So I'm just adding a little bit more medium, and you can see there's actually bubbles happening. That's okay, let those bubbles happen. Alright, so I want to come over now, and still with my dirty sponge of cobalt, I want to come over and pick up a little bit of this dioxine, just a tiny little bit, to start introducing a little bit of a darker color around the edges. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to keep spinning our sponge, picking up a little bit more medium, tiny little bit more paint as you feel like you're running out. And hopefully you're still seeing little swirls of cobalt. So I'm picking up mostly purple. I definitely want to go in and still pick up just that little bit of cobalt every once in a while. Right, lots of medium and some cobalt. And try not to over mix it, guys. So don't worry about this big circle ring that we're going to create here. We're going to try and do this fast enough. Right, and I might even need some more medium. Okay, so we want this to stay a little bit wet while we're working it. And definitely you can come a little bit stronger with color now that we are coming right close to the corner's edge. So definitely want to have a little bit stronger color on the outside here. Right, with mostly that dioxine. Right, so we got the merge of it slowly coming out from the blue into this dioxine purple. If you really love the more blue tones, definitely you can go and use Prussian blue. Pick up a little bit more medium. Just kind of adding it down, guys. I'm not really doing anything too special except for just slowly working my way out to the total outside area. Keep adding a little bit more medium and a little bit more paint as you keep going around. Okay, so because I have lots of moisture, it's almost pooling and kind of doing a weird effect here, which is kind of cool. Alright, so since I'm doing a wrap canvas, I'm just going to take a quick second here and go right around all my edges. so that I have the same kind of color going on. And it's got like a little bit of a mottled, freckly kind of look going on. I'm kind of liking it. I'm going to let it go. I really want it to be a little bit of a translucent kind of wash. Right? And it's okay to be slightly darker around the very outside of it. I'm slowly just working my way around the edges. Okay, it's still peeking a little bit of that bluish color coming in with the purple a little tiny bit. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing your bubbles all kind of happy here and still kind of showing it's still really wet. And in fact, it's still not wet enough, but I still want that color there, right? So what we're going to do is I got one of these mister styles. Is you can definitely sometimes change the strength of your stream. Okay, so something just really gentle, just to give it a little bit more of a moist look to it, right? Still not really doing anything to the paint. Right, so I'm going to try and flatten out my plastic here. I tried to rip it in a way where I kept it kind of square, almost the same size. Okay, so just kind of playing with it. Maybe squeeze it a little tiny bit. Right, put some creases in it a little bit. I actually got to move this piece down and do it a little bit at a time because I'm doing it on a bigger than my plastic is, which is okay. There's no time here, guys. Definitely have no need to rush here a little bit. It's definitely nice and wet, but I'm definitely going to pop this into my water so that stays wet, so that way it doesn't. Okay, so we don't want it to be too wet, guys. Definitely, the wetter it is, it's going to give you different looks, right? So it's a really washed out kind of look, almost tie-dyed looking. Okay, so I've got this kind of line going on. Right, so we can always go ahead and crumple up our plastic a little bit. Do it this way too. I feel like I might have sprayed it a little bit too much, which is, you know, kind of okay. Right, so we can just dab my plastic out on an old towel. And keep playing with it, guys, until you get a nice effect. It's good for staying. It's not modeling and blurring too much. I don't mind it to blur a little tiny bit, but I definitely want to keep some of this look of it crumpled. Right, dab. Maybe dab some of it off if it's definitely too wet. Right, but I'm actually kind of liking the way that's looking now. Alright, trying to keep it still a bit dark around the outside. And I've definitely disturbed some of my purple, but I still got lots of nice blue areas in here as well. Okay, so definitely want to let this dry on its own. Right, go ahead and pop some of those bubbles if you want to have some fun like we did in the gallery glass. You guys know what I'm talking about if you took that class. Right, there's bubbles in the product. So now I got a fascination of popping bubbles. Alright, so yeah, it's just something fun and easy, guys, to do a nice modeled effect. And then these colors are going to definitely still complement our Blue Jay. Right, still want to see a lot of white. Right. I wanted to see a little bit bigger areas. So hopefully you guys saw I have 4 canvases, so I did different styles of background on. So we did play around with something similar. And when you're flat out, whether it's plastic like this, a little bit flat, then you get different kind of looks too than just crumpled up. Right. So I want the kind of almost like a suede look. Right, bigger chunks when you use your plastic a little bit flatter. Right, but definitely keep playing and you're gonna end up with one color. I'm really pushing the edge of having that happen here, but I still see some blue, but I do see a lot of purple still around the outside, so I'm happy. All right, so definitely, guys, you play around with it a little bit. You've got some time, and let this dry. It's going to calm down because there's so much kind of fluid in it, right? It might look a little softer when it starts to dry. All right, so definitely go have a break, go have some lunch, and hopefully you're watching all of this first so you get an idea of the results that we're looking for, and then you'll have an idea of your timing so that you'll be able to go and plan. It won't take you long to do this at all, and then just let it sit and then spend a nice day outside in your garden, and then have your dinner, whatever, come back to it in the evening, and it'll be all ready and dry for you to do your design. You guys can use chalk or you can use pencil. I love using chalk. It sometimes gets erased away on you, so hopefully you guys can see your pattern of your bird here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this branch here underneath and coming through to the side here and then down in the corner. Okay. And then from behind his tail here, we're going to do another branch to kind of come up off into this corner. And we can definitely add some more branches to this. Okay, so then that way it fills up the space a little bit more, some smaller ones, and then also adding some flowers. Okay, so you guys will be able to see from the finished painting, because I'm only doing this once, and get an idea of where we put some leaves and some flowers. And but as long as you have this main shape here for your branch, main big branch, that'll get us all started off. Okay, so let's get that part done here first. I'm going to start off with a little bit of real brown or burnt umber, whatever you have, asphaltum. Any of those dark browns are great. Coffee latte, camel, any of those light colors here. Yellow ochre might be nice too, a little bit more warmer color. Okay, so we're going to use a little bit of yellow ochre. And then also a little bit of white. That's textile medium. Where's my white? White. Alright. Okay, and then I like using a bigger brush. You can use whatever you like, a 3/4 or even a 16. Right, we don't need it too wide. I'll use a 16. Okay, and then we're going to multi-load our brush. Our yellow and our brown. And then I'm going to drop it down a bit with some white. And just add a little bit of white into the yellow ochre. And then start just underneath belly here. So just kind of loosely kind of making these colors merge around, right? It's not a perfect stroke, right? Just seeing some irregular color coming through. Right? You can definitely use your stroke work to keep your branch going. But then come inside it then, guys, and just kind of go back and forth and making some irregular kind of color coming through. A few streaks here and there. It doesn't have to, the less perfect it is, like see how I put a little bit of a bend in it there, right? So you don't really want it to be too perfect in color, right? Like add some of those different colors through there. Okay, so we're going to definitely put some smaller branches in there too, right? And then this is going to come back behind him and all the way to the corner here. It's usually a little bit bigger at the base. And then slowly gets a little bit more narrow as the branch goes to the tip. So we'll put one branch out that way. Keep adding all those colors. Get that little bit of white to give you a bit more coverage. And then we can always go in and add a little bit more shading or go over it again if you're feeling like you don't have enough coverage thereafter. And just trying to get some good coverage, a little bit brighter color. And don't be afraid to go over it twice. So we're going to put another branch going up in this way. And then another branch going this way. Right, nice and skinny at the tips. Come a little bit wider. Okay, so I'm sure all of our branches are going to look a little different. Right, and then we can put another little branch here. Okay, so try not to go too wide, guys. Like I said, you can always go in and add a little bit more and add more branches to it, right, as we're working. Right, some smaller branches and some bigger branches. But that's good to get us started. And then some of these can Y off again. Right, so trying to get a little bit more darker color in here, but I'm definitely going to add a bit of shading. Okay, so you want to have the depth behind, especially where it's Y-ing off. Right, so you want to just pop in, just trying to pick up that little bit of dark brown just to get into the base here. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm picking up a little bit of highlight here so that I can come right in front. Right, so you see how the branches kind of, get a little bit out of highlight in there. So the same thing here. So where do I want this to branch off? Do I want this to go behind or in front, right? So this is where I want to put that little bit of dark right behind, right? And then make sure you're grabbing some light colors. And then when you come in front with that lighter color, it puts a nice little Y into your branch work, right? So again, you don't want it to be all one color. So let's decide. And it doesn't matter, like, the branches are always going to go in a lot of different directions. Okay, so we just want them to look like they're a little bit natural looking, right? So you see how we had that little bit more highlight in front. So here again, do we want to have this the main branch? Or this the main branch? Right? Again, just free handing, putting that little bit of dark in there. And then on the other side, pop in that highlight. Not too white. Make sure you have some yellow ochre in there. And the small little branches aren't so much detail in there, but definitely the big ones. And we can always float in a little bit more shading in there. And definitely we like to add a little bit of base coating a little bit just to get it started, just so then that way you can see where all of these little areas are, right? So I've got the white here in my plate here already, so I just want to add a little bit of white to his face. Right? Hopefully it's a little bit translucent still, that you can still see his eyes where it goes. Right? And it's nice to have a little bit of color come through the background too, right? So let that come through, guys. You don't need a lot of coverage, right? I like the little bit of mottleness that's coming through with that translucent color. And that's just the background color coming through. I was trying to be very, very light so I could see where his eye goes. Right? And then we're going to add a little bit of that cobalt back on our plate. I put way too much on there, so I took some off when I was letting my background dry. Okay, so we have some white on our brush. Okay, and then I'm going to come in, and then it's nice to tap your plate a little bit so that that little paint drop is flat. And then you're going to come in and side load just that little bit of cobalt. Okay, so you shouldn't have a lot on your brush, guys. Alright, so I'm going to use this cobalt part to come under his face and then around the body. Okay, so I want to have that little bit lighter color and then press down. Pop up on the chisel, come around the front of his body. Okay. You can definitely have it a little bit brighter here. We'll pick up a little bit more blue, follow it around, so you're boxing it around. You're using it to shade and block in that spot. Okay, so under his side, under his face, and around the front. Okay. And I want a little bit more blue, because right underneath that little breast area, I do still want to keep it a little bit lighter. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit darker color there, blue underneath. And I always like to reverse my shading so that's on both sides. I have that little bit softer blue there and a little bit softer blue there. Hopefully you guys are seeing that. And then I'm definitely going to be adding a little bit more shading coming in around the back of his body. Okay, so you don't need to have a perfect color, but we do want it to be a little bit medium blue. Okay, so it doesn't have to be total white and total cobalt. I just want to add a little bit of blue color now. Right, and go back and forth, make it dirty, doesn't matter. Right, just using this as that little bit of color in the back. Okay, so definitely can make this a little bit darker, like even all cobalt if you wanted to. Okay. And it's just so, I'm just kind of blocking in the color, guys, so that you guys can see a little bit better too. Okay. So that way you guys don't lose placement of where your wing is. Okay. And then down here, we're going to do all the strokes for his tail. Okay. So I do want to add a little bit of dioxine back on my plate again, too. Okay, so we have our white and blue gradient. Not really clean, but that's okay. Right, it's really dirty white. And then come over and pick up just the same way we're doing with blue. Pick up that smallest amount of dioxine purple. Okay, so up around his top of his head, right? And really they're not round. We would make them round for the gallery glass. But again, you can just use that for now for shape, right? Get this all colored in. A little bit of a light baby pastel blue with that purple. Okay. And then little chisel strokes forward in front of his face. Okay, just inside it. You do have a little bit of a tuft back here. Okay, see how I just colored that in. And it definitely does help to Google real blue jays when you're looking at the birds. You get inspired, right? So just adding a little bit more fresh white in there, and some chisel areas just to break it up, right? Just small little chisel areas. Make sure that it's dark on my tip of my brush. Start at the back, work your way forward. Okay. And then what we can do is start at the very, very bottom of his tail. And again, that dirty white cobalt. Right, really push hard and pick up these nice soft colors. And then come over and just peek a tiny little bit of darker color at the end of your brush. Okay. So pushing down, big daisy stroke, and pull up. And keep adding more paint, pop up a little bit of depth. Adding a few little wispy tails. Okay. And then trying to make them, not so perfectly straight, symmetrical, right? Because definitely they're not going to be that way. And then flipping your brush around. Adding some lighter ones. Right. So you still want that dark. Okay. Don't forget that you're flipping your brush around to pick up this color, pop it up. Then we got to turn our brush around to add from the light. Right? That usually messes me up every time. a little bit of dark. Right, and I think we're going to do one more little one over here. And curl that in a little bit brighter. Right. Then I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to do one more layer. Right, so now we're back to the dark on top. Add a little bit of interest with some darker and lighter and then darker. Right, so this is just a fun little blue jay, guys, right? One stroke style. Can't see this second one too much. That's why I'm trying to pick up maybe a little bit of cobalt, so it's a little bit lighter than that darker blue. Alright. So I definitely like to have that purpley color in there. Alright, so we're definitely going to use that to kind of come around and shade more. But not too purple, guys. Definitely want to have some of that cobalt mixed in there too. Right, little bits of both colors going on there. So I definitely want to add a little bit more of that purple shade there. And so again, we're going to come down and adding just the cobalt and the white now. A little bit lighter. Okay. Wing. Then you're coming down again a little bit lower to grab another part of that wing. Nice. Just big, deep U strokes. Right, it's not dark enough. Gotta go pick up fresh color on the tip. Every time, get that nice dark in there. Tiny bit more of a point, not so round. Alright, gotta back up a little bit. Put a little bit more point. Alright. A little darker so to get some definition. Alright, so that's the wing there. Alright, so not really caring about the color here in the middle yet. Alright, so we definitely play around in there. Go back over it and fix things, smooth things out again, define things. Going back and forth, playing with my cobalt and dioxide. So keep this one a little bit mottled looking, right? We don't have to have it too strokey. Just a little bit of irregular colors coming through. And then I'm just doing like little push-ups. Just little lines sideways. And then right in the middle here. Hopefully I'm not going too fast for you guys. And I'm trying to get some nice light area in there. Stop, rewind the video. Okay, so turn the brush both ways and do some jig-jaggities. Get that kind of white stripe in there. Okay. ticks that I was doing is kind of gone now, but and we can go back in after we've got this light in here and add just a little bit darker maybe. Okay. So hopefully you can see how I'm playing around with the blue and the purple. Alright, go back and fix things. It's still kind of wet, so I'm, still playing with it. Right, wet on wet. Just tipping my brush over. Try to slow that down for you there a little bit. It's like a purpley kind of blue. Let's see the difference between just the cobalt. So we've got to wipe out our brush every once in a while if you really want that cobalt look. I don't want it to too purple everywhere. I want it combinations of blue and purple bits. And just a little bit of shading now into his face, but not too clean, guys. There's his eye. Oh yeah, right there. Right, so you see how I'm just kind of lightly putting that color in a little brighter. Like using the brush to slide back. Right, so you're just getting a little bit of shading around the top. Flip around. And add just a little bit of darker blue in the front before his beak's gonna go. Okay. Dirty that white, make sure it's not too bright. Right, so maybe like using my fingers to blend it in a little bit so it's not so white clean. So definitely doing it with the gallery glass was a little bit different shaping here, so I'm trying to play around with this one just a little bit more. So I want this to be lighter than his breast, but still using the shading. And then his eye, under his eye, he has a bit of a stripe. Right. So we can do that with a little bit of a smaller brush there later. So hopefully you guys are seeing how I'm manipulating this big brush to get base coating done. Right, adding that shading all around the outside. Right, happy with it. It's gonna look funny until we give him some eyes. And so they have a pretty dark beak. You could use, even just actually, let's play around with some color, guys. Just use your dioxazine purple if you have it. And what we're going to do is mix that little bit of brown in with it. And that'll give you like a softer black. Adding a little bit of purple into your brown. And then we're just put in his little beak here. And they do have a bit of a peak on their beak. Beak on their beak. And they love peanuts. I've been feeding them with my chipmunk. And so yeah, definitely been inspired with blue jays there lately in this particular house. And so I'm picking up just a little bit of white on my brush, just enough to say that I'm lightening up some areas so I can look like, you know, bottom and top. Put the light on the top. Just enough to lighten that mixture that you made. And then I'm going to add that black eye. Mixture here. Get some color in there. And we'll let that dry, and then I'll come back and add more to that. But at least gives us our placement for now. And I can definitely use that little bit of brown and coffee latte and black. Right? Play around with his foot. Right? We want it to look different than the tree. Right, so we can definitely make that a little bit darker. Right. And then try and, you know, build that branch back around it again. A little bit of white, lighten that up a bit. Make it more yellowy. Then his foot. So hope you guys are just having fun with it. Let that dry a little bit. It's getting too muddy. More worried about my tree branch here right now. Get that a little bit lighter. And just keep adding some yellow ochre and a little bit of white. Dirty that yellow ochre a little bit. Adding a little bit of brown in there too, right? So just kind of mottled looking. And then I'll have to probably come back in here and fix his foot a little bit more after. Alright, it's almost too wet now. Okay, so we'll stop there and let this settle a little bit. And we'll come back and add a few more details on Mr. Blue Jay here. Like I said, it's just a start to play around with. I was just trying to go by memory, and playing with the gallery glass version definitely, you know, just kind of playing around with the placement. But I definitely did some Googling, guys, and they do have some really cool, almost brick layered style. If you look at the colors here, we're definitely going to pop in a little bit of aqua and white to really pop up some of these little squares in there and little white accents, and add a little bit more black into the wing part right? I definitely want to kind of look at the real Blue Jay to make some changes to this, okay? So definitely want to make a really fun and easy Blue Jay. Definitely that's a great fun one. And then just adding more black to the back here, at the back of his face and around his eyes, and then you would be calling it kind of done, right? So definitely we're going to bump this up a little bit. And this is the thing about seeing me do an original design the first time, not doing it twice, because usually when you guys do see it twice, I've made changes to how I put it out. I definitely find faster ways the second time to get the same result. So the first time is definitely a little bit of figuring it out and playing around. And one thing I like about their little tail there too, it's not a lot of feathery kind of wispy strokes. It's definitely a long, straight kind of look to it. All of the way their tail kind of layers on top of each other. There's probably about 6 or 8 big long feathers there, but they're definitely a little bit more stripy. So I definitely want to add a little bit more look into those tails. And again, depends on the view, right? If he's looking sideways, you're not seeing a lot of that detail, and like you would on his back. So I did find a picture of almost the same kind of view, of course looking the other way, but you can see that his white is definitely all up underneath here in the front of his chest, and there's a bit of a stripe in there that we're going to add, and we're definitely going to go in and add more white to brighten this up a little bit. But I wanted that softer, darker color to be just base coated, so then that way we can leave spaces in between, then you still have that depth in between the feathers. Right, so definitely we're going to play around with him a little bit more, and might have made his little leg there. Depends how he's sitting, okay? Like this one, he's standing really good, and then some of them, like I said, if you start looking at different birds and the way they're sitting on the branches like that, when you only see 1 foot. Okay, so maybe that one's a little bit more closer to what I'm trying to do here too. And with the tail, I think we got to go over this again a little bit and bring it down a little bit more and a little bit more straighter. So yeah, I'll play with this a little bit more with you guys and keep this picture in mind, and as our reference for inspiration. Okay, so we definitely got to give them more length to them. Step away. It's always good to step away, reassess the situation, see how you're doing, you know, and add and change, right? I'm gonna need some greens. Definitely like to have something, you know, either the sap or the thicket as my base of green colors. And we can definitely play around with adding blue to that. And I like the citrus. It has a nice soft color. And also still having some yellow ochre here on our plate. You know, definitely adding those tones into each other now is definitely what's going to help tie all these colors together as well. Right? So we've got our 16 still that I'm working with, or 12, or, you know, 3/4 if you want. You make them a variety of sizes, right? So I do plan to try to come down and make a little bit more smaller leaves in there too. Okay, so first thing I want to do is get my 2 greens going. Those are the main greens that we always use. But then we can always play and alter them, right? So we can make them a little bit more warmer, add a little gold tone to that citrus, right? Add a little bit more white to lighten it up a little bit. And then also what I like to do is add cobalt into my thicket as well, right? Sapphire will definitely make it darker. So thicket is really nice to use when you're mixing other colors. I love mixing cobalt blue, berry wine. You know, there's a variety of different colors that you can put in with that green to change the tone of it. Okay, so I definitely want to keep the blues in there. Right? We could use a peacock instead if you want. But definitely I love playing with you guys and helping you create new colors from basic colors, right? So you don't have to order so many colors. And I think it's just more fun, right? To make my own. And then you have a little more different consistency, because every time you go and grab a little bit different colors, maybe you will have some that are a little bit lighter or darker, or maybe a little bit more citrusy. And then you start getting a little bit more different dirty blends, per se. Okay, so right now what thing I want to do is kind of just come in and lightly to use my chisel of the brush. Try not to be too heavy or dark, right? Because we can definitely go and add a little bit of brown in there too, right? And that's going to definitely tie into our treat, right? So I want to go and just kind of make a little bit of placements. Okay, where do I want to have my flowers, right? So we can definitely pop up a couple flowers here, and then maybe one that's going to curl around in front of him, and then I want to add some flowers off of this branch, right? And then we can definitely put a couple flowers over here. Right, so we're definitely just kind of placing some flower stems right now, so I can start playing around and adding the leaves around those areas to keep open spots for them. Okay, so again, maybe we'll have another little flower coming out here. Right, just erase it. Too heavy. And then maybe even definitely down here. So that kind of places, you know, at least 2, 4, 6. Yeah, it's good to have odd numbers, 2, 4, 6. And then maybe we'll pop in another flower off to the side. And so all this chalk, this should be dry now. I should be able to erase any of that chalk we had. Yeah, let's pop in another little flower over there. Okay. So now what I want to do is try to add some leaves. Now again, depending on how you feel about your leaves, right? You can definitely do some one-stroke leaves. Right, so, and add a little bit of a wiggle into them. And then we can definitely add some smaller leaves off to the side. Right, so I'm pressing down. I'm going to do my one-stroke leaf, but I'm adding a couple of wiggles. Right, and you want to make sure that you're bopping down on the bottom of the brush as much as you're drawing with the top. Right, so this is giving it a nice little punch, and then fatten it up. Okay, so it all depends on pressure. Right. Adding a little bit more white to just the tip of your brush, just lightly blending it in. All right, go over it again if you have to. Okay, and then sometimes I'll cheat if I have to do a little bit. Okay, so I want to have a nice round little spot here. Okay, try to stay up out of the way so that you guys can see. And then we can put in a little bit of a vein. Try not to add too much white into your veins. Right, a little more citrus. Okay, so I'm going to add another little bit. We're just having a small little stem. And again, if you want to make smaller ones, less pressure. Okay, I'm going to put a bunch of little leaves. Okay. Then I'll have a little bit of a stem here. So not right on the stems, guys, just a little bit away. So then that way you can bring in your stem. Okay. And maybe one off of here. Okay, some of them can float right off of the canvas a bit. And definitely want to put a little flower there. Maybe we can put a little bit of leaf here. So just a very soft little wiggle, guys. It doesn't have to be like a strong washing the floor. Just a little random pushing and then popping up to your chisel. Okay. And maybe we'll put another one here. Flip that brush around so that your stem has a lighter color coming through. And we'll put another one off the side. Push. And pop up. If it's a really light color, then definitely you can put a darker stem through in. It just depends on your gradients. Try to change it up a little bit so that they're not all the same color. I'm going to put one up here. Right, so layer some over branches. Big flower there. Oh, and forgetting to add some blue into those greens. Okay, just trying to give them a little bit of a forest here. This could be one of those spring trees. Like, they come in so many different colors. I'm not saying that this is any particular kind of tree or flower that we're doing with this guy today. We're just kind of having fun with them. Inspired by my gallery glass. You know, I did put some yellow flowers in there. You can put pink flowers if you wanted to, or any kind of color you like. Right. Space, push up to the chisel. That over a little bit. And we'll put a little bit of a curl that way. Right. Okay, so that gives us a few leaves anyways to get started, and then we can pop in our flowers, and then we can add some smaller ones. Okay, so if you're using a 3/4 brush, guys, just try to really focus your pressure less, right? Really gentle pressure, and we want some nice big leaves. They're nice and easy to do. Okay, so I was putting a lot of pressure on my 16. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of daffodil yellow. And I'm going to come down to my 12. And find a clean, dry spot here somewhere. And I'm going to add just a little bit of white. Sometimes I'll just skim off the dirty green spots off my white. I get some nice clean white there. Brighten up this yellow a little bit. Okay, tip a little bit more bright white so I can get 3 colors showing in my flowers. Okay, so there's definitely 3 areas that I want to try and make more of a fuller flower, and then the rest are going to be like little buds. So definitely I want to maybe put a full flower here, here, and we got to do a triangle, right? So definitely going to put maybe 2 there on each side of them and 1 down below. Okay, so what I like to do sometimes too when I want to gauge how far low I can go, because I want to make that stem nice and long, I'll do my bottom feet first, right? So then that way we can work a little higher. And do like a simple 5-petal flower. Definitely good to learn how to do all of these strokes in all the different directions, upside down and sideways. Okay. Try to have a pivot point in the middle. Okay, just a very simple little center. We'll put it in the center there. Okay. We have a full flower there. And I don't want to hit his nose, but I don't mind going and being a little higher to touch his leaf, right? So the same thing here. I want to be able to put my bottom petal down here first. So that way I'm kind of being very careful on trying to make it close. Maybe smelling the flowers, but definitely doesn't need to be. Alright, so again, we're going to do bottom. And then I want to do a top. Right. And then we can add the side. Okay. Add a little bit more yellow ochre. Refreshing all your colors. Got two there. And then we'll put one here. So again, we can start traditionally. Should have showed you this one first, maybe, before I start playing with the upside down in all different directions. But the more you practice, guys, the more you play and push yourself, you won't have to spin your canvas around so much, right? And I'm just making a soft shell, a little bit fancy, but a little bit bumpy, a little bit random. Oop, I almost did it. I picked up some darker color. I'm so close to my green here. Hopefully you guys can see. Try to get you close enough so you can see my plate and my painting at the same time. Oops, in the corner of my eye I saw a dark spot on my brush. I'm so glad I saw it. Right. So a lot of times we don't always have to touch each other. So it's nice to have a few spaces in between, right? They don't always have to layer and touch each other all the time. But sometimes it's nice to have a couple that do, right? So the more random you are, like here I'm going to layer more. Right, so try to make them a little bit whimsical, and then definitely add that, just that little bit more white when you're layering on top of each other. Okay. Just some kind of fancy 5-petal flowers. Okay, nice and bright, and it offsets with the purple in the background. Okay, so over here I want to do some simple buds. Okay, so the back petal is going to be the same as all the rest of the flowers that we were doing. But on each side, we're going to just put a little daisy stroke and a daisy stroke and just a slight lean. Oops, sorry about my wiggle on my desk. Right, and definitely adding just that little bit more white into your stroke, into that daisy. Right. Then in front of it, on each side, we can definitely put another little side petal. Okay, so just like a little bud style. Just a small one. Okay, so it looks like a little, still 5 petals, but up in a little bud. Okay, so the first one is a bigger, right, same size. Right on the side, daisy stroke. You could do your little buds in front, right? And again, you can leave some space. You don't have to touch the side of that top petal, but you definitely do got to add a little bit more white. right? So you can hardly see the difference between that last petal. So you don't want too much white in your back petal. You want to have a little bit more, right? And then definitely you can try and make them really random. So one side could be bigger, one side could be smaller, right? So now I'm doing this back petal. I want to add a little bit more daffodil yellow, right, to get this back petal a little bit darker. Start up at the top. If you're left-handed, guys, definitely work your way out of the way so that way you're not leaning in wet paint, right? Is usually the best thing to do. Right, so I'm going to start at the top here, so then that way I have a little bit more room to lean my pinky on my canvas if I feel like I need to. Okay, so again, we can always make some little tiny ones. Right. Not much pressure on there at all. Okay, I'm going to add some little leaves at the bottom of them after. Try to add a little bit more white. Okay. So that way they're all different sizes. Practicing your pressure, right? So sometimes you don't mind them to be a little bit bigger. Okay, try to have that pivot point. They're like teardrops. Right? Daisy, a little bit of a lazy daisy, I call it. Right, so a little bit of pressure to the side and come in. Right, so you guys that are wanting to build your roses, definitely this is some more practice for you. Doing those little side, almost like a comma stroke. Right, so I need a little bit more white. As soon as I start to do the stroke and I notice that it's not showing, I stop. Right? Why try to finish it if it's not showing up already, right? So this is definitely one of the challenging colors, gradients to do. They're yellows. Right? Okay, so let's put another little bud over here. Right, I'm going to try and make them look a little bit different. And put two. And then our little daisy stroke, whoop, it wasn't up on my chisel there. A little bit of a lean, and then right up on that chisel. Okay, again, a little bit of space. And then this time I'm going to layer just one in the middle. Okay, so it kind of makes them look a little bit different. So I want to do that again. We'll put this other little one. Let's put another little one over here. Right, so we did two medium-sized ones, but again, darker yellow. You can always add more stems. Now I want to add a little bit more white. Okay, lightly worked in. And then one in the middle. Right, I hardly can see that, but it is a little bit lighter. But I want that white to be really tipped on the edge a little bit more. Okay, so it's starting to get too gloopy. Wipe out your brush. Come in, fix your gradient. Tip a little bit more. Right? Sometimes we have too much paint on our brush so that white doesn't stand out. Right? Too much in our gradient pile. Right? Use it a little bit more. Try not to pick up so much. Okay, so again, I'm going to do a darker one. I want this to be really upside down. Okay. Picking up a little bit of white. I don't go into that gloopiness. I back up a little bit and I only put very little bit of pressure. right? So when you're first doing that gradient, you're really putting a lot of pressure. Then when you pick up this white, it's just very little bit of pressure. Right, so it's not in your proper gradient track the same way. Lighten right up on that pressure. And it's just so that you're kind of working in that glob. So you could work that glob in on over here. You can go 1, 2, 3. And then move it around. Okay? So a lot of times when you see us coming over here, it's just kind of working in that glob a little bit. So that way, when you go to do the stroke, you can go ahead and put that pressure down. Okay, so I'm thinking I still need another flower over here somewhere. Right? Or definitely more leaves or something. So let's put another little bud over here. And I want to do a nice big one like we did earlier. Make that a little bit brighter. Now we're going to add some white. Add 2 smaller ones again. Right, really playing around with your pressure, all the same brush. Very nice. And then we can always add some more leaves in here too. Okay, so I'm looking at my coverage of my yellow, my first ones, and I really feel like I need to go over this again. And that happens sometimes when you have a really dark background. Right? If you want to have a little brighter color, or change your gradient, or maybe tip, you're starting to feel more comfortable with tipping now. You can grab that little bit more white on the edge. Right? So I know what size my flower is now. So now I can do it any way. Right? But you definitely want to still do it in the same directions, like from the top of the stroke and under. Right? Even though I started at the bottom, I'm still creating these petals from the top and then curling it under. Up on the left-hand side, right, I call left-handed version. Always gotta practice both directions, guys. Doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed. I know I have a couple southpaws in my VIP list. Right, so see how it's just a little bit more brighter color. It's definitely a challenge in a lot of colors. Especially when you're trying to do a lighter, brighter color on something that's a dark background. Okay, and then, or if you're layering over a leaf, you have different colors coming through that you didn't get 100% coverage. Right? I want to add a little bit more brighter white. Right? So I want to layer that same way. Right. Sure that we're doing it the same way. It's okay to have some petals a little brighter and darker yellow, more bright, like, you know, have different colors of yellow. Right? It's nice, right? Especially when you know you're layering. So you want to make sure you have more of the daffodil true the way it is right here. And then when you go to do the next petal, you're definitely adding a lot more white, right? And it's fighting through that wet yellow. 1, 2, 3, soften it out a bit, and then pull it in. I don't like my gradient this time. Right? Soften that yellow ochre a little bit more. Right, so sometimes stuff like this, you definitely, like you see, I just went over it like 3 times, right? Fix my gradient, fix my edge, Right? I'm not going to give up on it until I'm happy with it. Okay, so definitely, you know, with the yellow, you may notice that. And sometimes if you feel like you want to do that, you can place all your back strokes, right? Get these all done. Go over them again if you need to. And then come back and finish the front strokes too. Sometimes you'll see me do that too. Especially when I know I gotta do things twice. Right, so sometimes it is a little bit challenging to get those colors built up. And, you know, so it's not hard to just go over it and then brighten it up again a little bit. So, okay. So I think I'm just going to add a bit more fresh cobalt. So it's usually best to just add a little bit of paint at a time, just in case you take little breaks and come back to it. Alright, so I used a 12, and now I'm going to go and downsize down again to a 10. Okay, because I want to get some little tiny chisel strokes in there. So if you got a hard time getting those little kind of interesting kind of looks there with your bigger brush, then definitely coming down and just a little smaller brush. Make sure your chisels are really good, guys. Nice new brushes. Right, so definitely want to add a little bit of cobalt and Prussian blue, just a tiny little bit of Prussian, mostly cobalt, guys. Right, just a little tiny bit of Prussian. And when you're pushing on the back end of your brush, you'll definitely kind of push up some of that cobalt up higher. Right, and then definitely adding just a smidgen of some white. Lighten up that blue just a smidgen, guys. Right, just a little tiny bit. Okay, so then you can come over and restroke with some of your darker colors again. Right. And then what I want to do too is kind of add a little bit more texture into the top of his head. Okay, so I'm going to flip my brush around. And I just want to add mostly cobalt. And just that smallest amount of darker color there. And a little bit more white. Right, to create that little bit lighter baby blue. And then start at the back of his head, and then we're going to do tick, 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 little tiny ticks. Right, a little bit more white. Right, so that you're slowly getting a little brighter, a little brighter. Right, so I think I even got too much of that darker blue. Just some cobalt and white. Oops, I got yellow in there somehow. Right, need some fresh white. Look how dirty my white is. I'm trying to find clean spots on there. I still got paint, but just it's dirty. Alright, so let's try and load that again. Just the cobalt and white. Let that white get a little dirty. A little softer. There we go. I want this to be a little bit darker. Not too dark, but definitely a little bit darker. A bit rounder here too at the head. Okay, so I know I'm darkening it behind me. But as I keep ticking, I'm making it back lighter again. Okay, so just using the very front part of my brush, tip right over direct so that you hardly get any of that dark coming through. Okay, so I'm going to wipe off my brush, and I want to grab just white. But whatever white remnants is good there too. Okay, so I'm just doing tiny little ticks. Getting a little brighter, a little bit brighter as I move closer to the top of his eye. His eye is a little bit too big, so you can definitely just tick a little bit more white over the rim of it so then that you get a little smaller. Okay. And then we actually want to add a little tiny bit more in the front here, under his cheek. So we're going to be adding some black in the back, right? But I just wanted to show you guys that we're going to add a little bit more white all the way down underneath his face here, okay? In that direction. And then I'm going to change direction and start doing his breast. Right, all the way down. Keep picking up white. Whatever is left in your brush is fine, guys. Just that tiny bit of dirty brush is fine. Right, just the small little chisels. Right, and this actually goes down in different directions. So in this little area where I have the line there, I'm just going to change directions here a little bit and then try to come out from the side a little bit more. And brighten up his belly here a bit more. Okay, so it really doesn't even need to be in there too much. Okay. So I do want to come back and pick up some more of this cobalt and white. They're soft, dirty white. Okay, and then we're going to flip our brush around so we have our cobalt leading now. Okay, and lighten this up a little bit and add little darker flicks of color down his back. And just little soft feathers. And actually his, I'm gonna have to make you guys a different pattern. You'll have the better pattern to look for. Okay, and I'm just gonna bring his back a little bit lower here and pick up just a little bit of the dioxine every once in a while too, right? So then that way you still got some darker colors coming through. Okay, so his wing, actually looking at a real pictures, is definitely a little bit softer. Right, I'm just adding a little bit of a softer, take some of that dark color away. Kind of went over it a little bit. Right, so it's not so pronounced in the back here. It definitely, as it gets closer to the front, this is where some of the aqua color comes in. Right, so see where these little spots are here that we made with the darker color. I'm not really adding anything there, I'm just kind of showing you. I'm just trying to soften this line here a little bit. So then that way it's not so pronounced there. Okay, so we definitely need to keep playing around with this chisel, the cobalt and white. Right, and then I want to come around the front of his wing here a little bit and just soften some of this look here. Okay, so just a little softer into giving him some strokes here. Okay. And then this is, I'm trying to look at his picture here, and right in here is where we have definitely some whiter areas. So I'm trying to keep this dark here. Alright, come back and pick up some of that purple again, the dark purple, and then if you have to go back over it, Right, we can always just add a little bit more depth. Just very lightly using the corner of my brush, guys. I'm not even putting hardly any pressure in there, just trying to sneak that in a bit. Okay, so he does have little tiny bits of white, right? So just tip right over. See how I'm sneaking that white in there, and if it's got a little softness behind it from the cobalt, that's great. Okay, and then the bottom of his wing has some of those areas too. Okay, so we're going to put in that dark color behind it. And then add another little chop of white. And then the cobalt is kind of important to still have that soft color in there. Alright, so you see how I'm very lightly using the corner of my brush, guys, to get those colors in there flipped over. Alright, so hopefully this is a great exercise for you to be able to play a little bit more, to loosen up, as they say. Okay, so I'm definitely still not liking these petals here. So some of this definitely could be a bit just, you know, some whimsical fun tail here. But down here, from this section right here, I want to try and make these very long. Alright, so let's do some long slider movements here with our white and cobalt. And give them some nice long and a little bit more depth in there. Right, get a little bit of that purple and cobalt mixed together, because it is like a purpley color, guys. I look at these guys all the time, and it's amazing all the different colors and shades. Right, so again, if you do need a little tiny bit of flowy medium, we can use it, but just take your time. I go over it again. That's what I do. I just keep adding more paint. And go over it again. And while it's still wet, make your decisions, right? I gotta make this one a little bit longer. Right? We don't want them to be all the same. And I can layer another one a little smaller. Over here. Add your cobalt and white. Tip a little tiny bit of Parisian just to add a little deeper color in the back. Right, so I'm very lightly working in that. See how I'm doing it. I know I teach you guys all the time, keep yourself straight, and then I get cocky and I go upside down in all different directions. But I'm also very sure of myself, right? How to make that. Oh, I don't like it. Make corrections, right? So mostly cobalt, just a little bit lightly worked in. Remember how we were doing it with just the white, very lightly worked in? So now we're doing it with the dioxine, very lightly worked that in. Right, so I do like this little tuff of cuteness there with that one little feather there. I'm going to try and make them a little bit skinnier too. And then just to fix that one again, I want to put that back in there again. I kind of like him. Right. So again, he's a one stroke inspired kind of blue jay, right? There we go. And I already have that one there, so we'll just keep that little skirt in there. Right. Alright, so now that I've got my stripes going on here, right, I want to come in and I want to pop in a little bit of that aqua. A little lighter color, a little brighter color. That's teal. Aqua is definitely a little brighter, so let's use that. Okay, and you can even go in and grab, like if a thick sky, you can go in just a small little brush to dab in. Okay, so a nice little 6. And hopefully you guys have taken my tiny painting class. Double load my brush, and then I go side to side to kind of blend it in. Dip, clean white. I only want a little bit of white, and I don't actually would like it actually a little softer, so let it get dirty. Right. Go back and forth a little bit so that it softens the edge a little bit. Just a little tiny bit. Right. Sometimes it's good to control that softer, dirty white color, right? So I want to add some stripes. I'm going to go over this again with some black too, but I'm just kind of laying out the shape. Right, so I want to add some stripes in here. I know, maybe a little unorthodox way of doing it. Okay, so just a tiny bit of medium if you need it. And here I want it half. Oop, try a brick layer. So just to give it the teal a little bit brighter color. Maybe a little bit of cobalt in that aqua. Trying to brick layer a little bit. Okay, giving him some stripes. Yeah, play around with your colors. Don't overmix them. Let them come out. Alright, so I want to play around with adding some more of these little lighter boxy colors in here. Alright, so a little bit just kind of playing around with probably see it better in the pictures. Oops, so wet. I'm just trying to add a little bit of that aqua tone in there. Right, just a little bit of a wash. Alright, so now that we have that in there, I'm trying to save all the little black marks for last. Right, making our plan. Getting the shape a little bit nicer. And definitely we can stick with this 10 and add some black to our plate. Okay. I'm going to start off at the very top. So what you need to do is kind of, my brush has just been cleaned so it's damp enough, and pull just the smallest amount of black over to the side. Right, work that into your brush, and then practice those little tiny chisel marks with that black. Okay. So we're going to start up around here. I'm going to try to start adding some black to his face so it comes down almost like a triangle, right? But I'm doing it in a very little chippy way so that I can preserve some of those white areas that I made earlier. So I'm just kind of working in there, making them really nice and feathery, right? And then slowly working your way in to the corner of his eye, because his eye is definitely black. So keep going back into your plate to flatten out that brush so you get a nice skinny little chisel. It's actually easier to get these little fine lines with a small little chisel on a flat brush than it is with your little detailer. Okay? And then some of this black comes right up around his chin onto the other side, right around his face. Okay, so we can always go in and add some more white later to kind of go over that again. But I wanted to give you that nice cheek color first to get that in there, because we still have to add a little bit more. I never did finish the white there. Alright, so we've got some black there. We've got this dark starting to be nice here in a certain area, a couple of areas. We started here earlier. Definitely you can come in still with your black and do like little chisels, sideways chisels. I'm trying to show you on the corner of my plate here, maybe a little closer. So it's just like those little comma strokes, daisy strokes, but with a small little brush. Right, so I'm just kind of flicking underneath. Right, so I want to add darker colors underneath some of this aqua areas. Right, so just a little bit of pressure and pulling through like a daisy almost. Right, so definitely a little bit blacker in spots, and he does have a bunch of little freckled areas here in the front. Okay, and then he does have some longer strokes here. We should put them in there too. Sorry guys. Okay, so I've got my 10 or 12. I'm gonna pick up some cobalt. I forgot this part of his wing. Okay, so he does have a bit of straight, almost like daisy strokes. Again, add just a little tiny bit of pressure and really gentle pressure. Little front part that I forgot. Okay. Again, adding some little bit of cobalts here and there. Yeah, that makes his wing look nicer now. Okay, that was what we were missing. Okay, so now back over to this black. And work in a bit of that to soften that a little bit. Okay, and then again just playing. Oops, I got a little bit. These are a little bit bigger. And not too big. I don't like it. Make sure everything is dry. Wiping it out. Yeah, kind of on top of each teal area, still leaving a little bit of blue in between. Right, just the smallest amount of floating medium, guys. You need it. Just a little bit of pressure. And then I'm going to come in and clean my brush, and I'm going to pick up some of that cobalt blue, because I definitely want to have, you know, that darker blue in there. Alright, so again, I'm just kind of using, oops, I hit the black, the shape of our big, you know, just as a guide. And then I'm kind of playing around here. I'm trying to make a little bit brighter color. Adding a little bit of white on the tip of my brush to soften that look at the edge. And oh, I don't like that black. Erase that. And a little bit more detailed than maybe some of you guys are ready for. Right, but I'd also like to show you how to get yourself out of trouble. Alright, let that dry, and I can maybe fix that daisy stroke again. Oops, I got black on there now. Alright, so you gotta be careful with that black. Alright, so I'm just gonna erase as much as I can to clean it up. Take the blow dryer to it if you're in a hurry to dry it, and then you can always add a little bit more fresh paint there. Okay, so not sure, guys. What do you think? Step away, take some pictures of it, see if I like it, and then see if I need to add any corrections to it. Right. Brighten it up somewhere I got too much black. Right, so just little checker kind of spots. I definitely love his wing. I'm liking the look of that. So I was trying to copy that in a way, in a soft way. And then I do like having a little bit bigger brush sometimes when I go and fix it. So we gotta wait till this is totally dry down here. I want to go back down into my tin again. And pick up some of that cobalt and white again. Soft, soft, soft blend of dirty white. A little bit of bright white. Okay, and then we got to finish this part around his face, around his eyes. And bring that white just to a tiny little point. Very gentle touches, guys. Very, very touch, very, very light. See how I left that little darker band of blue? So then that way the lighter color will stand out more. Right? Just a very tickle just to blend that in. to brighten things up right after it's dry. Add a little bit more length to it. Yeah. Oh, went over that. Touch that again. And I'm just going to leave that there for now. Okay, so I want to go and use that liner brush though again. Just that little bit, a tiny bit of black. And I want to try to make the eye a little bit more rounder from the bottom. Right, just a little correction there. Still want it to be a bit round. And then just to give it a little tiny bit of highlight, just enough to say that you're touching that white, right? Just coming right in very, very lightly to add a little bit of a highlight. Okay, clean your brush off, grab another little freckle. Oh, there we go. The smallest little freckle of white. Okay, just 2 little circles there. Half circles. So I'm kind of dabby one way, and then I try to give it another little dot, and you know, just little swirls in there, just tiny little circles. Alright, so that's looking good now. It has that black in there, and then I definitely want to darken his feet here a little bit more too, and just get a small detailer and kind of light brush strokes. And I can let some of that brown still show through a little bit. And you know, if you want to put an illusion of another one, but it's, you know, the angle that he's sitting at. I wouldn't do it, you know, I just kind of leave it if you don't. And it's hiding up somewhere. I like playing with black and erasing it. And yeah, I'm not really liking that leg being so fast, so I'm gonna add just a bit of blue, maybe a little bit of white, model it around a little bit, and try and make the base of his foot a little bit skinnier there. A little bit of white, a little bit of purple. A little bit of cobalt. Dabby, 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 trying to mimic that background that we did. And I'll try and give you a better pattern for his feet. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of white in there. Turn it around using some brown. A little bit of yellow ochre. I love showing you guys how to fix things. Alright, because it happens, and then you're sending me pictures going, I don't like it. What can I do? So, yeah, I embrace when something happens. I just kind of play, don't take it too seriously, it definitely learn a lot from the experience, right? I always say make things twice. I mean, don't be afraid to just play the first time and get a feel of what's going on, and then you learn so much by what you don't like, and then the second time you go to do it, then you'll definitely like it more, right? So it's definitely a learning curve, especially when I'm coming up with new stuff too. Definitely, it's just all about playing and seeing, oh, I don't like that, let's try something else, right? So now I just have a little bit of medium and some brown, and definitely, wherever I want those branches to set back further, maybe I need that just a little bit more shading. You can definitely go in and just with one color, guys. I love that. This is my favorite part of tweaking the painting now with all the final touches. Adding that little bit of blue and floating medium, and like I said earlier, of adding that little bit more shading under things. If it feels like it's floating in the middle of somewhere, nowhere land. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of shading under it to ground it, right? And just make it a little bit, okay? See how that just kind of softens things? You see the difference between both sides, right? Take your time. And you don't want it like a line. You want it to be like shaded. So sometimes I'll go below it and I just keep working it so it's a nice soft shade, not just a line around it, right? You see how I brought that out a little bit more? Okay, so not just a line, guys. Work that shading in a little bit more. Right, this is how we really can add a bit more, pop to it. And then if you feel like it's too purple, then, definitely add a little tiny bit of cobalt into there too, right? Because this is definitely, a little bit more sky looking, right? You can definitely still go in, and wherever you added purple, you can still go in and tweak a little bit of blue now too, right on top of it, right? Because it is like an indigo kind of bluey, purpley color that the blue jay's body is, right? And we don't want it to be too purple. So definitely using cobalt and medium, right? Combinations of. Maybe a little bit more underneath his tail, right? There's not enough definition. Then definitely this is where I like to play around with, like, the darker will make the lighter stroke brighter, and I didn't put any more white to that yet, right? So yeah, it's all about tweaking and playing, and for me, I don't mind spending the extra little time, with this kind of stuff. To me, it's part of my enjoyment that I like to do. Right. The glazes, like I'll go over with lots of floating medium with blue right over the purple areas, right? Just to add that little bit more different tone, right? And I didn't even do the edge now. I just kind of filled up my whole brush with color here, right, with lots of floating medium. Just be careful not going over any of your strokes. Right, so again, you want to make it a little bit more bluey. Transitions into the purple, right? Just adding just a little extra craziness to our background color, right? Definitely, I love this blue and purple combination. Alright, just kind of giving it a little quick little wash of extra blue. Be careful not to hit anything. Okay, so now I want to have, there's hardly anything left in my brush of blue, lots of floating medium. Now I want to try and find some clean white. Again, trying to cheat a little bit, call it what you want. Little, oh, that's got yellow in it. I'm trying real hard to use up my paint. Okay, get some nice clean paint. Clean floating medium, because even that gets dirty, guys. Right? And then I'm just trying to get a nice clean line to make my life easier. I'm going to put my tail feathers in the right direction. Okay, so you see how I'm going over those stripes. I can even go over the edge of that a little bit more. Keep grabbing a little bit of fresh white on the tip of your brush. Right, and then we're going to fix this stripy look. I swear this is probably the only way you can probably do this. Right, so I got too much medium. Don't add any more medium. Just keep adding a little bit of fresh white to the tip of your brush when you're floating in. Right, you need some more fresh white, and I'm not adding any more medium. Just try to get my long tail feathers kind of separated again with that brighter white. Right, I can always add a little bit of highlight to that. If anything needs a little brighter color, right, just using one color on your brush, guys, but very, very little bit of it, just right on. Look at that, I've got, how much of my brush am I not using? Like, this is the craziness of this. That's why I love doing it. Right? And you need that little bigger brush. Like, I think, oh yeah, I picked up the 16 again. Okay, so you need that little bigger brush sometimes so that you can float all that moisture behind it so you can get that shading and or extra highlights added. Right? Same thing with your flowers, guys. Any areas that you don't like, you know, you gotta be careful. You gotta go slow and try to follow your original, you know, color. Right? Anywhere that needs just a little bit more pop. Right? You can always add just that white. And then be ready to erase anything you don't like. Right, and don't always go all the way around every flower. Sometimes I'll just go around the, you know, different parts of it. Right? So then erase anything when you go over. Nobody will ever know. Right? Just little spots where you think you need just a little bit more separation. Brighten things up anywhere you like. Right, even your leaves, if you want to add just the smallest amount of yellow into that white to dirty it a little bit. Right, tiniest amount of yellow ochre. Right, you can always go over the edge of to fix some of your leaves. Right, add a little different twist to some of them. Fix some of them you stuck your finger through. Right, some maybe are a little more citrusy. Right, guys, so definitely it's all about not giving up. Right? Don't give up on them. Learn how to just kind of roll with the punches, and then know that you could always tweak things up. Right? And always go over anything you don't like. If there's a big ridge on it, then sometimes I'll get a nail file and I'll file off that thick paint where the ridge is, so then that way I'll get a nice smooth tail again if I got lots of bad areas there that were lumpy, and then it doesn't look right because it's right. So definitely it's all about playing sometimes and learning what you can do. I need to soften that aqua a little bit, and just adding just that little bit more shading back on there. Right. So that it's kind of softer underneath each black. Right, so yeah, you gotta kind of step back and look at things and go, okay, what does it need? Right, and then play around with it a little bit more, guys. Right, then you see how just putting that little bit of color on the back of my brush, right, adding some floating medium. I can pop in just that little bit more shading, especially behind the feathers too, right? Add just the smallest amount of dioxine right underneath that white now. Intensify, set that wing back a little bit more. Oh yeah, that looks way better. There you go. See? Right on top of all those white strokes. So what do you think? I hope you really like it, and send me some messages on my Facebook page, Messenger, and or my personal one, doesn't matter. Definitely, it's better than email. I can definitely help you in any way, answer some of your questions, or meet me on the end of the month. Every month, last Tuesday of the month, we do a free Zoom troubleshooting coaching session. And even for some of these projects, guys, if you feel like you want more help with any of the projects, then definitely you can show up then too. I just loaded my little brush thinking there was something that I needed to maybe add a leaf somewhere. Right, so just a little bit more layering, so then that way it's not afraid to touch each other kind of feel. We want it to flow and have some, good times. Do I like that? It looks alright. I got a lot of moisture here. Sometimes it's nice to have like a shadow leaf too. Right? Some of them that are really dark. Lots of medium. I'm pretty full here, so I really don't need too many. But, yeah, just trying to put a couple filler ones in here and there. And make sure you soften See, this one I forgot to soften. So make sure you soften the beginning of it coming from the brown wood. And yeah, I think I'm quite happy with Mr. Blue Jay now. In a fun one-stroke way, as easy as I could possibly make it, with also adding extra detail. So yeah, definitely, guys. Now it's all about just adding your signature here. I think I'm going to use a little bit of white and aqua here, maybe a little bit of brighter color, and just put my initial in here, nice and small, in the corner here. And sometimes I'll go over it again with a little more white. Dirty white onto the wet paint. Smear in some color there. Alright, guys, so I can't wait to see your versions. Tag me in your profile, share them in all the groups, and let them know that you took my class to teach you how to do this. Alright. Happy creating, guys. See you again soon.